This evening is on foster care in Arkansas. And this is a topic of special interest to me because my two adopted children, Eugene Torhauser, spent 3 years in 3 different foster homes before they were eligible to be adopted. So this was almost 30 years ago, and I'm very interested in having an update. Our panelists will help us understand the foster care system, the problems it faces, and what corrective measures they feel are needed. This is an information gathering program for the League. Our local league does not have a stand on this child care issue, but we will soon be choosing study topics for next year, and we need background information to select what we want to study. And once the league studies a topic and a consensus is reached, then the league can publicly advocate for the stand that it has taken. Special thanks for this program tonight are due to Marge Zinke, league board member and a retired social worker, who knows a lot about foster care. She planned this event. And to Lyndon Carver, who will moderate the panel and introduce the panelists. Lynn Carver is program director for Arkansas Support Network. She is past president of the board and current board member of Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, and was recently co-chair of the Governor's Task Force on Best Practice in After-School and Summer Care. She was recognized in 2002 as the National Child Advocate of the Year by the National Association of Child Advocates. We have good people here tonight. And Lynn, let's talk about foster care in Arkansas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome, and I'm pleased that Marge asked me to be the moderator tonight. I have an interest in foster care myself. I actually had 2 little boys who lived briefly with me, and the agency that I work for also does specialized or therapeutic foster care for young people with developmental disabilities. So it's a topic near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to, since I didn't get my glasses out, I'm going to try to do this without them, but I may have to lean down and get my glasses out of my purse here in a minute. I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I will start with Pat Page, who was the director of the, yeah, see, there you go. I'm going to have to get this out, Pat. Okay. Was the director of the Division of Children and Family Services in the Department of Human Services from October 2006 till October 2008. And Pat, whom I've met for the first time tonight, is someone I've heard about for years and heard about her work. She began her career as a child welfare specialist in foster care in Washington County back in 1974. So she certainly has a lot of information and a historical perspective, as well as some really good up-to-date information for us. She has served as an adoption specialist in Northwest Arkansas and a foster care specialist for the entire state, and later as an administrator for the statewide foster care program. So I'm expecting that she has quite a broad perspective as well as an in-depth perspective. She's also assisted with planning for DCFS in the mid-'80s, and so she can tell us a lot about what direction that agency felt that it had to take, and maybe she'll give us some tips on whether she thinks that we got there yet. Pat has a bachelor's degree from the University of Arkansas in social work and social welfare, and a master's from Florida State in social welfare, and she has also her JD from UALR School of Law. And Pat asked that we wait until after she makes her remarks to ask questions, but she's happy to entertain questions afterwards. And to her left is Laura Kellums. Laura's the new director of the Northwest Arkansas office for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. And prior to that, many of you may recognize her name, if not her face. She is a reporter for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette in Northwest Arkansas. And she has a journalism degree from the University of Arkansas, right? So she grew up in Northwest Arkansas and decided to move from reporting on policy and politics and government into actually helping make policy for Arkansas Advocates. And Keith Beyer is the CEO of Arkansas Support Network and happens to be my boss, so I have to do kind of a good job tonight. He is also the chair of the board for Ozark Guidance Center, which is, of course, our community mental health center. So he knows a lot about both developmental disabilities and also mental health issues, both of which impact children in foster care, as a very large percentage of those children happen to be kids who have either disabilities or mental health issues or both. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Pat. And I was asked to let you all know that you're certainly welcome to come up to the podium to make your remarks, or you can put your microphones on and talk from your place. And also, when we get ready to do questions, because we're being videotaped, we ask that you come to the central microphone, and please tell us your name and where you're from, and then you're welcome certainly at the end to ask questions of any or all of the panelists. This page.
Great. Thank you. It works if you take it off mute. Okay. Let me say on the front end, I love children. I have 6 children and 6 grandchildren, and some of the grandchildren gave me a cold, so if my voice goes out before the end of this, you'll know what's happening. I wanted to cover some background first, and then talk about some of the issues and about what is the crisis from my viewpoint. Let's start with something very simple, like what is foster care? And that's when the state intervenes in a family to protect children, those under 18, people under 18, by removing custody from their parents. It's typically due to neglect, abuse, or sexual abuse of the children. And it's supposed to be used when children cannot be protected in their own home. Most cases where children are abused or neglected in Arkansas, the children are served in their own home. Those are called protective services. And in Arkansas in 2008, we had over 6,000 true cases of child maltreatment, that's abuse, sexual abuse, and all, involving nearly 9,000 children, but we only had 3,754 children in our foster care. So you see many, many children are served in their home with protective services. But when they cannot be kept safely in their home, then they enter foster care. So is everyone that's living away from their parents in foster care? No. You have children that parents consent to live with other people, like it could be grandparents. We have a lot of children living with grandparents now, or other relatives. They could be in a residential facility or a special foster home program that their parents consent to them living in. Those are children that there's not abuse or neglect, but the parents feel like they can best be raised elsewhere.